A great woman of God, wife to one of the great fathers of gospel in this nation, Bishop Mark Kariuki, Deliverance Church of Kenya. A successful businesswoman, a farmer, an encourager to many, a phenomenal woman. What a combination. Got married at the age of 40, and that's why she's our guest today in our After 30 show. An amazing journey, story, and testimony. Let's enjoy this After 30 show YouTube channel.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I am so excited to be here on this show, After 30 show, because I believe by the grace of God, my story shall be an inspiration to many of you. So karibuni sana. My name's Reverend Joyce Kariuki. I'm born again. I love the Lord. I think the last 22 years I've been saved and loving the Lord and serving Him together with my husband, Bishop Dr. Mark Kariuki, who's the General Overseer of Deliverance Church International. We are also the senior pastors at House of Bread and the Majestic City that is on Kangundo Road. We are also parents of 2 sons and a daughter and many grandchildren. So we are blessed. And I just want to say, my story is a testimony of God's faithfulness. So karibuni sana. You know, my testimony, like I'm saying, I hope it inspires many of you. You know, this show is After 30. So there is that idea of getting married after 30. Hey, mine was now getting married after 40. Getting married after 40, because that's when I got married to Bishop Dr. Mark Kariuki. I had been waiting and waiting and waiting to get married. And I got married in May of 2013, and August of 2013 is when I actually turned 40. So by the way, that saying that they say that life begins at 40, I think for me it turned true, because after 40, got married and many things happened. So yeah, if you're there, you're still in your late 20s and early 30s and feeling like, you know, it's too late, I pray my story will be an inspiration. I got married after 40. And you know, that getting married after 40, I'll be very sincere with you, it's not easy. Because there are many people who ask me the question of, you know, so how was it? And how was the waiting? Were you getting tired? What kept you, you know, really waiting? And one of the things I would say is waiting is not easy. For sure, waiting is not easy. And it's purely by the grace of God. Because like any other young person, even when I was in my early 30s, you know, I was hoping to get married, but it didn't happen. And so I kept serving because I joined the church. It's a long story, my going to the US for studies, coming back in the year 2005 and getting into church and just serving the Lord. And so my early 30s, I knew I'm getting married. It's not happening. Mid 30s, it's not happening. Late 30s, it's not happening. And I remember one time with a group of our friends, we used to pray. That was the year before I got married, so I must have been 38 or going to 39. And we used to pray midnight prayers, keshas, to get married. That's what I'm saying. It's not easy to get married. And so we went through a season of prayer and fasting. We finished. And then I think another year passed and we are still not married. And one time my friends come and tell me, I think we need to pray again. I told them, the prayers we prayed, I feel those prayers are enough and God heard them. And this was what I told them. I don't think if I pray now again, if God intends for me to get married 5 years from now, He will like fast track that because of my prayers. If He has said I'll get married 5 years from today, it is 5 years. Whether I pray or I do not pray, I believe in prayer. So I told them I believe the prayers I had prayed were enough. And I think 6 months after that is when the bishop proposed. So it was not easy, but one of the things I did, and which I can urge all of you, maybe you're there waiting and the waiting is hard, just focus on your life. Focus on moving forward, if it's going to school, back to school, if it's getting in business, if it's in your job, advancing in your job, career. So, you know, just go ahead and focus on your life. The husband is coming and on the way, but God gives the grace. Actually, and I know we'll get an opportunity to pray together. That will be my prayer for you, because patience just has to come from God. And God can give that, to be able to wait without compromising or even giving up. It's not easy, but it can be done. You can wait, and God is faithful in your waiting. You know, when it comes to waiting, one of the things that makes the waiting also very difficult, sometimes also is from the external pressures that come with that. You know, your family asking you, when are you getting married? Or even your older friends that are already now married and having their first or second child, and they're asking you, what are you waiting for? And can also be pressure from yourself, where you're looking at time and thinking, oh, the biological clock and all that. So I think sometimes all that pressure is what makes also the waiting very, very difficult. By the grace of God, and I say it's really by the grace of God, for me, I feel I didn't experience that much pressure from my parents, or from my family. My mom, God rest her soul in peace, was one of my greatest intercessors. You know, she prayed for me. I'm her firstborn, so she would pray for me. And but I don't remember one time when my mother sat me down to ask me, hey, when are you bringing somebody, Modo? When is the Modo coming? I don't remember her ever asking me. Or even like my siblings, and some of them had already been married. Those who after me, they were already married and with children, but not at one time. And it's because I believe she believed also in her prayers and my prayers that when the time comes, the right time comes. So she never gave me pressure. My family never gave me pressure. And I thank God also for my church family, because sometimes also the pressure comes from the church family. And I thank God for my church, House of Bread, Deliverance Church. And there was no pressure. Sincerely, as I speak, there was no pressure. And today, when I speak to the women in the church, you know, the older married women, and I tell them, let's not pressure these girls. Because when you talk to a girl and ask her, so when are you getting married? I mean, she's the girl who's waiting for a man to come propose, and the man has not come. What answer now will she give? So I try to encourage the married women, don't ask these young girls, so when are we eating the pilau and all that? They also don't know. So my church family, I believe also from the great teachings and in our church, and we are people of faith, I didn't face that. So pressure, but if you're facing pressure, because I know you could be there and you're saying, "Hi, Pastor Joyce, me, the questions from my relatives, maybe when I go home, you know." Now, it takes some level of grace to be able to face these people, because what I discovered is that even when they're asking us these questions of, you know, when are you getting married, and oh, are you too choosy, or hey, you know, okay, get a child. You know, these are the questions they ask. Some of them are very innocent when they're asking this. You know, they're not being malicious. Maybe some of them is even out of a concern of their daughter. You know, when is she getting married? So, and others, of course, could just be, you know, they're just asking. So just take the questions very gracefully. There are different ways of being able to answer these people, because one of them would just be, you know, I'm praying I'm also praying about it, and I'm waiting on God. Because the minute you tell somebody that, then they don't have much to say. So just find a way to be graceful about it. For me, when somebody would ask, because of course there were a few here and there would ask, and I would always ask them, are you praying for me? So Joyce, when are you getting married? I would ask them, are you praying for me? Then of course they will say, yes, I'm praying for you. Then I would tell them, continue to pray. And that ends the conversation. So just find a way to be graceful to go about it, but don't let it get into your heart where you feel so annoyed. Why are people asking me? And to some extent, sometimes even now deciding, okay, I'm getting married because people are asking me. No, it's okay for people to ask, but they have a right to ask, but how you take it yourself. So just be graceful about it. Your time will come. You know, there are times you would look at me and think like I'm talking. There was never ever a time when I really felt like giving up, or now taking a different route, like having a baby. And I'll actually say probably just 2 years before I got married, I must have been about 37, I remember a thought, I'll call it a thought going through my mind. I'm 37 and I thought suppose, probably, might God just have decided that Joyce will stay single? Because you see now, 37, you're wondering, so which man are you? 37, even the men at 37 are married. So now, where is this young man who at 37 also is not married? So I remember thinking to myself, maybe could it be God's plan that I remain single? Although it was not my heart's desire to remain single, and I know God says that He fulfills the desires of our hearts. So much as that thought one time crossed my mind, I still said, you know what? I'll wait on God. For me, I just decided I'll wait on God. I would say this, and maybe you will agree with me. Many of the times, probably, when people feel like they are giving up, is when you're also not very busy with your life. Get busy with your life. I'm telling you, when you get busy with your life, even how time moves or years move, you not even realize. So that you're not somewhere just sitting and waiting and thinking and worrying. But you're so busy with your life, going back to school, if it's in your business, opening businesses back and forth, looking for partnerships, if it's your career, progressing in your career, going for these short courses, time just moves. And networking with people, meeting all kinds of different people, a year goes, another year goes. You are active in church, you're there with the meetings, you're there with the women are going for baby showers and bridal showers. You are there because you see it's also a seed you're sowing for yourself. There are kesha's, there are crusades. I mean, just get busy with your life. The minute you slow down and start worrying, then even the compromising is very, very easy. So I say to you, do not compromise. Do not compromise. I also remember one time when I was in the US, because I went there in the year 2002 for my master's. And just before I came back in the year 2005, I remember trying to contemplate how, if I want to remain in the US legally, among the many options was to get married. So I thought, well, I can get married. And I knew how people were doing that. And, you know, it was just, you know, you get a lawyer, and the lawyer helps you find this man, American man, to marry you. It's just an arrangement. So I remember asking my friend who was going through the same, and I asked her, tell me, so this marriage, is it like a real marriage? I mean, like, do we go to a lawyer, Bible, vows, you know? And I was told, yes, it's a legal marriage. And I remember thinking, oh, no, as much as I want to stay in the US, then I'm not going to get to a marriage which is just an arrangement. And I said, I better come back home. So I remember that's the same year that I came back home. And I always look back. And think to myself, suppose I had gone ahead and done that, then I would have short-circuited my blessing. I call it short-circuiting my blessing. So please don't compromise on this. Go, you think, okay, I'm 37, I'm 35, maybe I can get a baby. The man will find us along the way. No. If you're a believer, child of God, and you have faith in God, wait on Him. A baby is a blessing. There's nothing wrong with a baby, but wait on God. Let the husband come. Let the children come after. It's the order of God, and that comes with a blessing by itself. So we are not leaving church. We are not abandoning God in search of a husband, because my husband, Bishop Mark, I remember one time he would speak to the singles, and I still remember to today, and he would say, the ticket to heaven is not marriage. It's Jesus Christ, salvation. That's what will take you to heaven. It's not the issue of you're married or not married. So don't compromise on your salvation for the sake of a marriage. God is faithful. My story today is to tell you God is faithful. And your husband, according to God's plans, is coming in due time. My story with Bishop Mark is an interesting one, and I've always been asked many questions. There are people who will ask me, oh, Pastor Joyce, so were you dating before you met the bishop? And you know, yes, yes, I was, you know, there were men who had approached me, and I'll speak it as it is, because then I don't want you to look at me here and think I dropped from heaven, met the bishop, we got married. But, you know, I remember in college, I was in Egerton University for my undergraduate, and while there, and even way after that, I was in, I think I was between maybe college and when I got married, like serious relationships. I would say I had what, two or three serious relationships. And to the best of my knowledge at that time, I knew this is the person I'm getting married to. And I actually remember the last relationship I was in before the bishop proposed. I mean, it was such a serious relationship with a born again, this young man who was also serving in church, and you know, we were good. And I remember at one time he even told me, you know, shop for a gown, you know, and so I could see the signs of the wedding coming, and then somehow abruptly one Sunday calls me and tells me it's over. And it's over. So those relationships were there, and I, at that time, I had believed this is the right person, but they were not meant to be. What I believe is God orchestrates our lives, because I remember the last relationship I was in, which broke or was broken on a Sunday morning. I remember, of course, I was devastated, had broken and all that for a short while. But when the bishop now proposed to me in the year 2013, and I remember one of the questions, it's a long story, but you know, there was somebody he sent to ask me questions. And one of the questions I still remember that I was asked, but I didn't know I'm being asked, was, does she have children? Does she have someone in her life? And when that question was asked, of course, because this relationship had broken, I said no. And so I always imagine now, if, let's say, the bishop had come in when I'm already in this relationship and the question was asked if you have someone, and I had said yes, that would have been it. So I look at how the sequence of events of how it happened, broke up with this relationship, and just a few months later is when the bishop proposed. Then I know that God orchestrates our lives. The events that are happening in your life today, they are orchestrated by God. Even leaving the US for no apparent reason, but just feeling I want to go back home, come home, was orchestrated by God. You could be there and heartbroken because you had this relationship, maybe 2 years, 3 years in a relationship. You maybe you've even been introduced to the family and it broke up. Okay, cry for a short while, but dust yourself, wipe your tears, and smile, and actually tell the Lord thank you. Because, you know, we only see so much, but God has the entire picture of our lives. And today I believe that God can cause a heartbreak, can cause a breakup of a relationship because of something better that He has for your life. Because when God closes one door, or when one door is closed, God is able to open another door. So we don't focus on this closed door. We look at it, it's closed, and then we start looking, where is the other open door? So I understand heartbreaks, I understand having gone through relationships, but my advice also from my experience is don't invest so heavily, you know, emotionally or in whichever way, even financially. Don't invest so heavily in just any relationship that you are in. Just be prayerful about it, knowing that if this is meant to be, it will come to pass. And it is okay to have the relationship, because then how, you know, how else will you get to meet people and to know people unless you're in this relationship? But as you're in it, you're also praying that, God, if this is meant to be my husband, if this is meant for men, this is meant to be my wife, then it will come to pass. If it does not work, always know God has a better plan for your life. For me, you know, now looking back, I know the plan God had for me with the bishop was the best of the plans. And, you know, it came in a very interesting way. Came back from the US in the year 2005. I've done my education, I've graduated, I'm working, but I just had this feeling that I need to go back home. for no apparent reason. If you'll not take anything from this show, take it from me. God orchestrates our lives. So I found myself back here in the country in the year 2005 in August. And I remember that time I came back looking for a church. And I went to all the churches in town. I would go this Sunday to this church, go to this church, and just not fitting in and praying. I remember my mother would ask me, hey, Joyce, just choose one church and settle down. And, so I just kept looking for a church. And I remember one time I'm seated in the house and I'm watching KBC in the morning. I think it was KBC in the morning. And I see Bishop coming. And he says, I'm coming to Nairobi. And I'm like, wow, Bishop Mark, we all knew Bishop Mark is in Nakuru. And now he was saying he's coming to Nairobi. And I thought, wow, at least this is a man of God many of us trust and have followed for many years. I thought, I'm going to find out. So I quickly took the location, Aga Khan Walk, and all that, and he would be coming on the 5th of December, 2005. So on the 4th, which was a Saturday, I remember going there to the building at Aga Khan Walk, and I walked in there and I found people very busy, putting up the chairs and wiping, preparing for the service now the next day. So I asked them, is it here where the bishop will be coming? They told me, yes, it will be here. I said, okay, fine, I'll be here. So Sunday morning, 5th of December, 2005, I was among the first, I think we were 37 of us. 37 of us, we were there for the first service, and Bishop came, preached a powerful message, and wow, I just thought, finally, finally I have found a place. So that was the first Sunday. Next Sunday he came, and now I was there. And of course at this time he has come with his wife, the late Mom Joyce, and some of his children, I think the daughter. So they're there, and really there is nothing. He's Bishop Mark, married to Pastor Joyce and with his family, and he has come to start a church. So I was there, and one Sunday he said, okay, fine, get your place of serving. If you are a security, if you are an usher. And for many years since I got born again, I've always been an usher. So I joined the ushering ministry, and we were there. After about a year or two, 2 years, we moved from the Aga Khan Walk and came to the KPCU building. And we called it the Exodus. We moved, we marched from Aga Khan Walk to KPCU. Mom Joyce is still, the wife is still here. So there are no thoughts of anything. And then now that same year, 2007, God called her home. She rested, and Bishop was by himself, but still preaching. So at KPCU, and I remember at one time he would tell us, I think a year or two afterwards, he told us one time, please do not pray for me to get married. I know some of you here are praying for me to get married, because now it's about 2 years after the first wife has passed on. And he said, don't pray for me to get married. When I am ready, I will tell you, and you will pray for us. So we kept quiet, and we never prayed about it. So 6 years, 5 years, 6 years go on, and nobody is thinking anything, and Bishop is himself preaching very powerfully. He looks fine. But we are looking at him and we are wondering, hey, 6 years, 7 years, hey, what's happening? And also as a church, we are thinking we need a mother here in this church. So silently on our own, we were praying about it. So by now, I am the head usher in the church. And so I remember one time Bishop comes and says, just like throwing hints. This is now to 2013, 2012, late 2012, early 2013, and start saying, I'm getting married, but never gave much information. So us as ushers, we got excited. And we said, finally, the bishop is getting married. Can we prepare for his wedding? We start now preparing because it looks like things are coming up. So that went on. So we are in 2013. I was working at Britam, January. February of 2013, I resigned. God orchestrates your life. As you listen to this story, God orchestrates our lives. Everything that is happening now in your life, you're a believer, it is orchestrated by God. No mistakes. Because 2013, February, I resigned from my job for no reason. I just thought, I don't want to be employed now. I work for an insurance company. I can form my own agency, which is what I did in February. Come March 2013, and I remember one day I had gone for a burial of a father of a colleague of mine when I worked in Daystar University. So we went for the burial, Githunguri, somewhere in Githunguri, Kiambu. And I came back home, lived somewhere along Mombasa Road, Imara Daima. And that was the year, if you remember 2013, that was the year we had our elections. So this day, I've gone for this burial, they were doing the tallying. They were doing the tallying of the results. So I decided, instead of going to the house alone, let me go where my mom is and my sisters. We sit together and watch these results. So I went to my mom's house, and so we are seated there watching the results and all that. And at about 6 p.m., I get a call. So I get the call, and I look, and I see it's Bishop Mark calling. So first of all, I'm a bit surprised he's calling. But because by then I'm a leader in the church, I thought, well, he wants to let me know there'll be something happening, communion, prepare elements and all that, or something. So I picked his call, and he goes, I'm with my friend here, Pastor Paul, the late Pastor Paul, and he wants insurance. He knew I'm selling insurance. Can you come and sell insurance to him? And when I heard that, I was excited, because selling insurance is, if you've sold insurance, I'm sure there's some insurance agents here, you know, it's not an easy task, selling insurance. So when someone calls you, can you come sell insurance, you run. So I told him, yes, I am coming. Ran to my house, changed, got into my small car, and drove to the bishop's place. So I got there, the bishop is there. And of course, I knew his place because as ladies in the church, we had visited the bishop. Over that period of time, we used to visit him just, you know, for fellowship. So I knew his place. So I found the bishop seated to the left, to my left, and Pastor Paul to my right. And I was put like in the middle. And he tells me, this is Pastor Paul, and he's from LCC Nakuru. I knew him. And he wants insurance. So I look at Pastor Paul, and we start now talking insurance. And Bishop now is here, but we are with Pastor Paul, and we are talking insurance. So we talk, giving him all the options. And finally, he settles on one. And then he tells me, once this election, the results are out, can you come to Nakuru so that we sign the documents? And I tell him, good, we are good. So it's a deal. So I put things together, and I'm ready to go home. And as, you know, like I finished, remember the bishop is still here, he looks at me and tells me, and by the way, you know I want to get married. So I tell him, yes, bishop, we are, remember I said he had been mentioning, so I'm like, yes. And we are very excited, about it, bishop. We have been praying, and I talked, how we've been praying about it. We are so happy for you, the bishop. He's just looking at me, smiling. So when I finish, then he looks at me and says, suppose I marry you,